Welcome to another episode of Rennch. On today's show, we are going to fix the bad primer job I did on the last episode. Now, to be fair, there isn't really a bad primer job. You can't really mess up primer very much. But in the last episode, I was just learning how to use like big boy primer, where you have to mix the hardener and the reducer with the actual product. And it was just a lot. And I didn't know enough about spray guns and the amount that I needed for it. I thought my problem was that I had too much air pressure, but in reality, I didn't have enough air pressure. And the primer went on really dry and kind of orange peely. So this time I bought the same gun, but with the regulator on it. And I've watched a bunch of YouTube videos in terms of how to set it up right. I will shoot water first and make sure that I have the kind of spread and consistency and volume that I want. So this second round will be much better, I hope. By the way, as an aside, look how cool the car looks sitting on the ground. It hasn't been on the ground for over a year. Doesn't it look awesome? It's just totally different to see it on the ground versus up on the blocks. And how it sits and how the flares look, it just looks awesome. I did a major garage cleanup the other day because it's been a year since I really did a major cleanup in here, and it really, really needed it. So, plan for this episode. I'm gonna finish blocking these fenders and the rear deck lid. And to do that, I'm going to use this awesome DuraBlock kit that I bought from Amazon. It's got all kinds of different versions of sanding blocks. This is the curvy one, which you need on flares. It's got a big flat one for big, long, flat sections like hoods and roofs and things like that. And then a bunch of kind of flexible intermediate blocks as well. Now this version is the Velcro or hook and loop version of the blocks. So you can get the Velcro kind of sandpaper, which all of this is, and stick it on and then you're golden. They also make a sticky one. And actually one of you lovely viewers sent me the sticky version of this, but I didn't get it. I only found out that you sent it to me because I was looking on my Amazon wish list and I saw that it was off the wish list, but it never arrived. So if you are that person and you sent the sticky version of this from the wish list, we can't track it down and it's gone and I can't do anything about it without the order number. So if you DM me the order number, it was that and like some kind of primer or filler or something. Didn't get that either. So I actually didn't get two of the things that were sent from the Amazon wish list. What is the Amazon wish list, you say? Well, it is a little thing where you can go to rennch.com/high5 and just support this channel and this build. And I appreciate it. That's the deal. Before I tell you the plan for this episode, I will tell you my philosophy for this build for the next few videos. SEMA is coming up in November. And no matter what happens with SEMA, the car is just sitting there. It's sitting in a booth of some sort. It doesn't actually need to run. It does, however, need to be painted. So my priority is to get the body and paint done on this car before I do anything else, including fire the engine. I have all of the infrastructure ready for the engine. So basically all the fluids and everything that needs to go in the back of the engine compartment is in the engine compartment. So anything I need to weld or whatever is all pretty much done. There's still all kinds of fabrication to be done with like intercoolers and turbos and headers and things like that. But if the car's not painted, it's really hard to get that thing done within a couple of weeks versus like, let's get the wrenches out and get the engine in and God forbid, worst case scenario, I can trailer the thing to SEMA and roll it onto the floor. We're not gonna do that. We're gonna drive the thing to SEMA, don't worry. So with that in mind, I'm gonna continue to work on the body of this thing so that if I have any kind of spare time, there's only blocking and sanding to do to get this thing in paint. So for this episode, I'm gonna not only finish the primer on the two fenders and the rear deck lid, but I'm gonna add the hood and my two new doors. Why do I have new doors? The doors on this car were all hollowed out for racing. So I can't actually put windows or any kind of electronics in them. So I have two new doors and I need to get those ready for paint. What we're gonna do is we're gonna strip the hood and the two doors, finish blocking out the front fenders, and then prime all of those things. So here are my new doors, thanks to Esposito Restorations here in Los Angeles. And I've got to strip them. I've got to get these things back down to bare metal. I don't need to do them on the inside, which can just be scuffed before it gets final painted, but I do want to remove all the paint from the outside here so I can see what I'm dealing with. Already what I'm dealing with is that this thing has a rust spot and I see some Bondo in here. So I'm going to have to figure out what's going on here. I have to remove this decal, which is a meatball from someone's racing career, so I have the heat gun out. And finally, I have to strip all the paint off of these doors. So to strip the paint on this car, I'm going to use some chemical stripper. Now this is the old school chemical stripper. This is the stuff that contains methylene chloride, which is really gnarly. And what I mean by that is, like if you bought salami or hot dogs right now, there's a label on it that says this contains nitrates and nitrates, which have been shown to cause cancer in lab animals. This stuff contains methylene chloride, which they're like, oh no, this definitely 100% causes cancer. This is some gnarly stuff. Unfortunately for us car guys, it was the only good way to remove paint from a car. You glom this stuff on with a paintbrush and it bubbles the paint up and you scrape it off and you're done. The new stuff doesn't do that at all. So I'm gonna use this. I've got some gray market and black market. I got these a couple weeks ago from an estate sale, and these are from 2005. And I bought this from another car guy that had 10 brand new ones, and these are from 2009. So this stuff is good. I've got to save some of it because if I can't strip out the interior of my car with some blasting, I'm gonna have to use this stuff to chemically strip all the paint and then sort of hand sand everything, which I'm not looking forward to. So with these doors, I've got a big decal on here, which I've got to get off with the heat gun first. And then I'm gonna rough these surfaced up with some 40 grit sandpaper all the way across, then paint this stuff on. I've got nitrile gloves, which are chemical resistant. I've got some goggles. I've got some face mask action. And of course I'm outside, which really is the key here, where I'm getting a bunch of ventilation. So I knocked the top layer of schmutz and clear coat off because that's going to allow the paint stripper to dig in a little more and work a little more effectively. I'm going to paint it on and then cover the top with some plastic, which keeps the chemicals in and working a little bit better. All right, can we talk about how awesome the old school paint stripper works? Look at that. This one's a little better than this one. I think this one was factory and this one might have been repainted. So the repainting never works quite as well as the factory one, but this is gonna scrape off and I might give a couple of spots a couple of other hits, but man, does that save a lot of work. And look how satisfying it is. Oh my goodness. Wow, this stuff really tastes well. This is a beautiful piece of bare metal. So this is why I stripped this stuff, but this is definitely not a good case. This door is just full of Bondo. This one was easy. It has a little Bondo as well. You see how good Bondo is. I mean, the stuff sticks no matter what. If there's mechanical grip on that stuff, it doesn't go away. Well, I'm a little annoyed now that this thing is clean a couple hours later. This door sucks. It's got holes all over the place and this gigantic pile of rust in the corner. This is why I stripped it, you know, to see this stuff, but you never hope it's going to be like this. You hope it's going to be like this, which is a normal, perfect door with nothing wrong with it. So that is a bummer. I need to decide if I want to just try to source a new door or I want to fix this thing. I suppose it depends on how easy this is going to be to fix up. If I cut this out and can replace it relatively easily, that's one thing. I do have another whole door here that I could grab a piece from, that bottom corner, if I can get it to unbolt. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do. This door is so foobarred, like everywhere. I'm not super worried about these holes because I can weld them up really fast. And in fact, they're kind of divoted, so it'll be a little better for grinding. But this whole section sucks. This is all low right here. This is all full of rust. And then I've got, you know, 8 holes right here. So I'm actually gonna cut a big chunk out. That's a pretty gross door. All right, as you guys just saw, I cut the piece off and then really made a big effort to get rid of as much rust as I could. Then I'm using Por 15 metal prep, which basically converts the rust to zinc. I think all of this happened because somebody put some kind of seam sealer here in the corner, and then it just, all of the moisture buried itself underneath and it rusted. So as sometimes happens with these videos, they can be a moving target. So in the time span of that last clip and now, I think it's been like 3 or 4 days, I have completely changed how I'm going to approach these doors. That door that I just stripped was so crappy and holey, and I cut that whole panel out that was rusty, and I posted that on Instagram, and then a fellow Porsche mechanic nerd like me reached out, shout out to Gabe, and said, dude, you should replace the entire door skin. I have a couple. So here we go. We're gonna do a door skin replacement. I've never done one myself. Well, I just took the door skin off my crappy door over there, and just to figure out how to do it. So I'm gonna do it now with this door. Now this process is mostly easy, although it does get a little bit complicated on this leading edge and up in this corner. Basically all you do is you grind with a grinder all the way along this skin, and that's gonna separate the skin from the body. Then on mine, I ground this down because there's a bunch of factory spot welds right here. So after you've ground this lip down enough to separate the spot welds, this part here gets a little bit tricky. This part here is leaded from the factory. So you've got to make sure you kind of trim your original door, and this thing blends nicely because you want it to seat obviously as square as humanly possible. So normally I have like a flap disc kind of grinder, but this one's one of the stone grinding wheels. Like I really want to take some material off with this. So all the way along the bottom edge, all the way along this edge, and that's going to release this entire part of the door panel. Then start grinding the top side of this because this is just sandwiched together with spot welds. And then I will deal with this corner as necessary. All right, here we are. Skin is off, and I've got a little work to do here because before I do anything, I got to take care of this rust. This is not going to be uncommon. If you pull this, chances are yours is going to have a bit of rust as well. I may repair this here just to bring this thing back to being intact, and I'm going to try to kind of carve away some of this seam sealer that's in every corner here. All right, I've got this inner door completely trimmed. I've got the door skin ready to go. And now I'm gonna hit the rusty spots of the door with some prep and etch, which is gonna convert the rust to zinc. So I've hit this thing with the grinder, and I've gotten all the loose stuff off, but now there's just stuff left over. And there's some rust in the crevices I can't get to, so this thing's gonna convert that rust to something that's not rusty. They generally tell you to leave this stuff on for 20-30 minutes and then rinse it off, but the idea is to try to keep the rust as wet as possible with it. If you've never used it before, you can be as liberal as you want with this stuff. And who knew I was going to restore a door? I didn't. All right, you guys just saw me strip that second door of its door skin, and I did that because I wanted to get rid of this really heavy bar. This thing probably weighs like 15-20 pounds. I might do a quick patch panel on the other one because someone cut out around the speaker, and I just want to tack that thing in and make it like intact again. So just a quick update. You can see this thing's all been hacked out. So I've just cut this piece from my old inner, and this doesn't have to be amazing, but I just want to kind of put the door back the way it's supposed to be. All right, here's my patch panel. Again, I'm not making this a super huge deal. I'm going to just quickly weld this thing in, give it a really quick, dirty grind. Beauty's in the prep work. Here's both of my inners. I put a little coat of paint on them. A lick of paint, as they'd say in the UK. So I'm going to let that stuff dry for a few. Then I'm going to punch some holes on the leading edge because I'm going to have to plug weld that whole front area. And then I think we're going to be good to go. We'll have some door skins. I've just realized that every time I hit record, I've got a different outfit on. It's like Madonna. And that's just because this thing is taking so much longer than I originally anticipated. Every day I run into a new roadblock where I need something that I don't have. What you just saw me do is spray on a little bit of this Worth high build under seal. And when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit. I mean, I just did a skim coat of it. And that's to reduce some of the vibrations in the door. I have one more thing I want to do, which is I've got these Noico, I think they're called. I got these from Amazon. These are thin noise and vibration reducing mats, the kind of thing you'd put in your interior. So I'm going to put two of these, one on each side of the door, that's going to prevent the vibrations of the door, really trying to give it that nice thunk without adding a tremendous amount of weight. You basically just stick them on and then use this hard plastic roller to roll the diamonds out. And once it gets smooth, that means you know it's affixed enough. It is kind of cool though to see kind of a finished panel. Now I just got to make sure I know how to put them on. All right, I've got both pieces ready. Got the inner structure all done. I've got the outer skin all done. The only thing I have to do is this area here actually has to be spot welded to the door panel right here. So I've got to pop a few holes, 5 to be exact, right there. You'll see that I've already gone along the ridge and popped some holes in here, and all of these will get spot welds on the inside. So the plan is I'm going to hammer this lip around the outside rim first before I weld anything up, because this area right here actually has to be finished with some lead filler and some other stuff. But I want to get the panel itself affixed to the inner structure, and then I'm going to bolt it on because I want to make sure that my door gaps are where they're supposed to be. At that point, I'll probably put a couple of tacks in the front of the door just to secure it in place. So, ridge is on. Good news is it went on well. It went on straight. And everything seems to be lining up well. Bad news is I over-clamped the vice grips and put some divots in the door skin. So for the next one, I will put some something to protect, maybe some metal pieces or something, so I don't clamp directly down. This video, again, full of surprises. We are once again in a challenged position. So this roll cage, I've been thinking about relocating this tube because it's just too far out. It doesn't look very good. And now I'm trying to shut the door, and the roll cage interferes with the actual door, which is forcing my hand to cut this tube out. What I'm going to do is cut it out and then get somebody to weld me in, or maybe I'll do it, a tighter version that's closer to the body and a little more tucked in. And that way I can still have the roll cage, but it looks a little better when it's wrapped. It's not going to be sticking out quite so much. Talk about an episode that did not go the way I thought it was going to go. I thought it'd be painting. Instead, I'm removing roll cage hoops and doing new door skins and repairing inner doors. And thus is the case with the Blasphemy build. Now, I have a lot of work to do to get this door to fit right. Act right. But I'm gonna do that off camera, and I'm gonna wrap it for this particular episode. When we come back, I'm going to do something else that I think I'm going to do, and then maybe it'll get redirected into 19 other things I didn't think I was going to do. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Be good to each other.